When we get to be adults, we cover this whole mess of all the layers of shutdowns up with this bright, shiny, polished veneer that we present to the world, where we're saying, no, I've got it handled. I'm an adult. You can rely on me. I'm reliable, dependable. And then we wonder why it is everyone thinks we're so full of, you can answer that question. And then if you get to be very lucky, life gives you a wake-up call. Now, for many of us, it came in the form of the loss of jobs, the divorces that took place, the loss of friendships, the polarity that happened in families, having to homeschool children when you had a full-time job, not being able to go to work, on and on. And all of us were in this melting pot. And then all the mega fires and floods and climate change that's been of a biblical proportion around the world. And we got a wake-up call. And what happens with the journey, something cracks through this phony mask that we've been presenting to the world. And we end up spontaneously opening down through the layers of the pain and the shutdowns and the traumas and the negativities. And spontaneously we open into this vast field of love, of pure awareness, this oneness. And you realize it's been there all along. Only like me, you bought into the layers that covered it. So it can be something very simple that you're like 3 years old. And your mother says, come on, we got to dry your tears. We've got to get to nursery school. And the little 3-year-old you gets said, oh, I'm not allowed to feel, at least not those feelings that have the tears. And the first involuntary shutdown happens. It's automatic. You start shutting down one emotion, and it starts shutting down all emotions. I can remember when I was 8 years old, and we had a very domestically challenged household growing up. A lot of brutal violence and abuse. And part of the way I used to escape was into my children's books. So I love to read. And of course, I became a good reader and a good speller. And I got chosen to represent the third graders in my elementary school. And we were having a county-wide big spelling bee in a stadium where all the schools were coming together and all the teachers and all the parents and all the students were there. And I was standing on stage and I was representing our school as the third graders. And I'd already spelled 3 difficult words. And then they gave me one of the easiest words in the English language, the word fleet. No one had I'd never even seen that. No one had written about it in any of my children's books. But I had seen the word flea, an insect. And I stood there and I said, F-L-E-A-T. And the whole audience was hushed. And all at once, it erupted into laughter. Now, no one had given me a manual. How do you deal with mass humiliation in front of your friends and the parents and the students and the teachers? And I looked to my mom, who was sitting in the 3rd row, for her support. And she looked at me as if I was the greatest disappointment in her life and just shook her head and went, and internally, it was like this huge wall just came slamming down inside of me. And I went to go to the back of the stage to sit with the other losers. And that day I decided I'm so stupid that I'm just a laughing stock. I'll never be good at anything I do. I'll never be competent. I'll never succeed at anything. I'm just a laughing stock. And it's like this, layer upon layer of shutdowns. I can remember when I was 16 years old, I fell in love with this guy. I got my first crush. And I tried to impress him. And you know how that went. And I made a total out and out fool of myself. And I actually watched the first love in my life running out of my life. And I was running after him. And of course, that day, I decided I'm so unattractive. I'll never attract someone I'm attracted to. I'm just not lovable. I don't deserve to be loved. And it's like this, layer upon layer of shutdowns. And then when we get to be adults, we've learned how to cover it all over with this polished mask we present to the world. And then if you get to be very lucky, life gives you a wake-up call. And it comes in the many forms I spoke about before. In my case, it came in the form of a serious illness, where for once you crack through this hardened veneer and spontaneously you open down through the pain, the shutdowns, the limitations, the traumas, and spontaneously you open into this infinite field of pure awareness, of pure love that you came in as. And it's at that deepest level, at the level of the soul, that you turn the flashlight on inside, the torch on inside, and you're guided by your own soul to go on a journey inside the body, to uncover specific cell memories. And you end up in a very natural, gentle way, opening up into the consciousness that you had at that time, into the pain that happened in that cell memory, releasing that stored pain, letting go the buried words that you couldn't speak at the time, the actions that you could, just releasing it all and coming to an understanding of what took place in your life, and ultimately forgiveness.